Hello and welcome to Torment, Tides of Numenera. So, we are still in the bloom and this place is vast! Really vast! Look at this, this is crazy. I mean, like, and we have to go there and there and there and there and there. We have to go anywhere. Anyway, we have Eriki here with two Lascars. I'm not sure what to deal with that. Maybe we should talk to one of these Lascars? Not in your tongue could we speak, Eriki. She will speak to you, okay. Eriki? Apparently you're the one who we need to talk. These three humanoid wear intricately carved armor that makes them look like undersea dwellers of legend. You cannot recall having seen the material from which they are shaped either, though the suits are bulky, their wearers move with a strange and fluid grace. You might have mistaken them for monsters, but their leader is unhelmed and appears human. She has close cropped hair and an angular face, and her jaw is clenched, as if were subconsciously chewing on a problem. At your approach, Araki gives you an irritated glance. You address the Gem Madar Araki. Speak what you need, or be gone.
I'll remember that.
Then she reconsiders her words. Ordinarily, hospitality is ours. Forgive this one. The mall to our anchorage has closed. Kinda talk weird. She indicates the hideous tentacled mouth that lies dead in the center of the platform. Another way must be fine. Have you word of open malls that lead to our station? She lowers her voice. Beseech you, even, trapped here with the supplies we purchased for our compatriots. The world is getting to me, and the frustration of speaking in a foreign tongue. If you want me to help, you need to answer some questions. Her jaw unclenches by the smallest fraction. Naturally, this one will seek to provide informative truth. How did you come to be trapped here? I left Anchorage where our ancestors have served for centuries, sought resupply as we have so many times before. Upon return, the way was closed. Again, she indicates the dead maw at her feet. Worried now that comrades may suffer without us. Or worse, what if our ship returns while we are absent? No, that's too terrible a thought. Tell me about your anchorage. All refuge we have ever known. We await the ship that will end our mission and take us home. Captain Jadur commands it. You find the Ma and speak to her. Perhaps she can tell you more. In a way, I suppose the anchorage is our home. After all, we have never known another. Where should I go to look for Ma's? This one hoped you would know. We are strangers here. Buying supplies is all we know. Not hunting maws. She looks down at the dead maw on the platform. Here was the maw that led to our anchorage. Here it had been for many years. Yet on our return, that. I'll see what I can do. Farewell. Little Neliash. Shrine of Chila.
All right.
Yes.
Alright, let's go into the... Oh, I really shouldn't have went into this place. I still have guys to talk with. But looks like this is a small place, right? Bloom cultists?
Here we go,
Oh, these are the
then.
cultists, right? Hey. What are you, friend or foe to a god? The whispers aren't clear.
I'll
Well,
handle it.
maybe you shouldn't rely on whispers. These sturdy jugs contain a slimy, viscous fluid. A tendril of bloom flesh squirms around in one of them. Ugh.
Yes.
Altar. A slab of pitted stone sits in the center of the shrine, heaped with a motley display of offerings. Judging by the accumulated dust and filth, it's been here for decades or longer. Examine the offerings. The objects on the slab are a bizarre mixture of trophies left by visitors to the shrine. Many of the offerings appear to be food of the most ghastly nature. candied eyeballs, amputated fingers, and claws in the little cakes and pies, and puddings made from other unidentifiable organs, probably all harvested from vanquished foes. You also see broken weapons, severed limbs, and a scattering of silver items, little pots, cutlery, buttons, and other discarded scraps of metal. People have obviously been leaving their offerings here for some time, and everything is a jumbled mess. Your sharp eye catches sight of a tiny bloom tendril that snake along the surface of the slab, attaching themselves to the offerings. They writhe and undulate as if feeding upon them, yet the offerings bear no physical signs that they've been touched. Alright. Hello, one-armed bandit? What the hell? Observing spec? What are you observing here? In a shadowy corner of the shrine lurks an old woman, so tiny and unremarkable that she blends into the gloom. She's been watching you since you arrived, following you with bright, intense eyes. You notice that one of her arms is missing at the elbow. Greetings.
The whispers of me, the whispers told me you were coming, Kastov. They often do. As someone they regard as interesting, they find their way to the bloom.
Her voice is soft and shifting, as if everything she says is echoed by the chirring voices of the bloom. Now, the thing is, don't you want to put that in front? I mean, like, that's the thing. I mean, not only that I just read it out loud, but still, I mean, you want to put that in front, so, you know, so you read that with that in mind? I suppose it makes sense that you read it once, but still, I would say it makes a lot more sense to give that information first. Suddenly, she's at your side, one small hand touching your arm, her eyes probe yours.
Did you come here with purpose? Do you know what place this is?
You realize that this shrine does feel familiar, as if you, or perhaps the changing god, have been here. Try to remember. 100%. You scan the room, searching for anything that might seem familiar. A metallic gleam catches your eyes from the nearby slab of stone. It lies partly buried beneath a motley pile of offerings, but the usual shape of the metal sparks a memory. The old woman follows your gaze.
He has left that as an offering, your sire did, when he was here.
You can almost feel the weight of the device in your hand. With a sudden, jarring clarity, you see the chamber as it was 40 years past, when the changing god stood before a group of robed bloom cultists, offering the device in trade for information. And in the corner, an elderly woman, bird-like, with the shining eyes. This woman you've just met, or someone much like her, was at the shrine then too.
He pored over every scroll,
she whispers half to herself,
wanting to learn how Chilla forged a friendship with the bloom, a bond that imposed no price upon her, or so he thought. And now, here you are, in the shrine of Chilla the Great, Chilla Silverskin, Chilla the Bride of the Hammer, and I'm her observant spec.
Alright. When the changing god was here, what did he want from the bloom?
To create a portal to another world, a place called Ascension. He believed that the crystals of that world would save him from death. So he descended onto the bloom's heart and forged a bond of sorts. From that bond, a new maw was born. It took your sire to the world he sought.
She pursed her lips.
But for every bond, the bloom always expects a price. If it could not feast upon your desire then, it will find a way to devour one of his offspring. More than one, perhaps.
Maybe. No. I just thought that maybe the bloom is responsible for the sorrow, but it is happening longer than 40 years. At least that is what I was led to believe. What can you tell me about Chilla?
Stories? Passed from one spec to the next. There are so many stories told by so many tongues. Told too many to hold in my hand, but the bloom remembers, and it whispers in my ears to remind me.
Tell me where Chilla came from. The spec closes her eyes and cocks her head like a bird's, and as is listening to the voices of the bloom. As she begins to speak, the faint chitters and whispers that always underlie her wounds grow louder, twisting them around in your head and spawning images in your mind's eye.
Speak to me, whispers. Tell me again about Chilla. Look up! Up! On high on the cliffs, a sturdy little house.
The cliff of Sagus flash before your eyes, crowded with old, ramshackle homes. They cling to the rocks like spindly crabs high above the sea. One of them catches your eye, a pretty little house, freshly painted blue and green, in a solid nook of stone.
A man and woman dwell inside, father and mother. 2 children they have, girl and a boy.
Now you can see the people too. The girl is tall for her age, robust and strong. Her brother is small and cautious and quick. Alright.
One day, the father pulls the treasure from the sea.
You can see the man in a fishing boat hauling a silver cylinder out of his net, looking at it in wonder.
He brings it home to his family. What shall I do with this artifact, he wonders, for I am a simple man, not a wizard or a sage.
The man glances out the window of his house and sees 2 children playing in the streets.
Artifacts bring trouble, he says to himself, and I have a family to protect. I'll bring the treasure to the boss of the town, and she will thank me for it. So the next day, the man gathers the treasure in a sack and sets out for the manor at the top of the cliffs. His daughter Chilla wants to go with him, but he shakes his head and goes alone. Many weeks pass, the man never returns from the manor on the hill. Chilla asks everyone she knows, but no one has seen her father. One day, just as she and her brother leave their house in the morning, they hear a crash behind them.
In your mind's eye, you can see the pretty little house pulling away from the cliff as its wooden supports snapping like twigs, busting apart as it falls toward the sea. It strikes you as strange that this house, seemingly kept so much better than its neighbors, should collapse so suddenly.
The children race back along the road, only to find their house is gone and their mother lies dead among the rocks. As her brother curls up in the streets and weeps, Chilla stands beside him, gazing toward the manor at the top of the cliffs. I know you did this, she whispers, and I know what you did to my father. The treasure you took from him is my birthright, and I will have it back.
Seriously, you care about that, like, treasure? That's what drove her vengeance?
Not vengeance, a desire to be extraordinary.
The spec's voice is quiet again. The whispers receded. You dance that these words are truly her own.
Chilla believed that her parents were easy victims because no one knew who they were. If they had been prominent and well known, the boss of Sagus wouldn't have dared to harm them. But they were small and simple folk, so no one cared when they died.
For what else matters but to be known? The changing god also knew this. Tell me how Chilla found her way to the bloom. Once again, the spec cocks her head and closes her eyes. When she speaks, the chitters and whispers of the bloom spark images in your mind, and you can almost see the events she describes. Speak to him as well, the cast-off, show him the truth of the past.
Look up, up! 2 orphans climb the cliffs toward the manor high above.
In your mind's eye, you see a brother and a sister in their late teens as they scale the sheers of cliffs of Sagus. Above them, carved from the natural rock, looms a great vault house.
It belongs to a woman, a boss of Sagus and mistress of the bloom. She who killed their parents and took their birthright for herself. The girl is Sheila, tall, broad-shouldered, and flamboyantly dressed, like a glittering gem against the dull stone of the cliffs. The boy is her brother, Shade, slender and quick, cowled and black. Through the unguarded window they climb, slipping into the garden beyond. There at its heart is the artifact, their birthright. In your mind's eye, Chilla and Shade crouch on a ledge. You can see the artifact as they must have a metallic cylinder fitted into a strange device. She leans forward, so eager to see what is rightfully hers, but the ground turns slick, and she falls, toppling into the garden, close enough to the artifact that she can almost reach, but she's snared in a net of rainbow light. You can see Chilla crumpled under the strange net, trapped, calling for her brother. Shade watches from the shadows. He makes no move to help. Keep listening. Betrayed, hisses the speck. Led into a trap by her twin. But if she couldn't have the artifact, at least she could touch. The speck's voice strains as it does. You can feel Chilla straining, reaching a hand through the net. As her finger brushes the artifact, it flares with brilliant light, and it's gone. But not gone, not really. It's part of Chilla now, changing her slowly from within. She can sense the change, but she doesn't know what it means. Not yet, not as they lead her away. You catch a glimpse of Chilla being led in chains from the great house. She's cast into the bloom as a slave. And there, the speck smiles, softly and warm. She meets me. But it wasn't really you, right? No, not me. She shakes her head slowly, as if she's uncertain of her own words. It was another woman called the Speck, my namesake, the insignificant Speck. That's who she was back then. Tell me what Chilla did to warrant such respect. In the dark, in the bleeding guts of the bloom, a score of young women crouch in a cell carved from the living flesh of the bloom. You can barely see the girls in your mind's eye, and thin and tired. You can barely see the girls in your mind's eye, thin and tired, huddled against the fleshy walls, bound in chains. Who they were before doesn't matter. They are slaves now, doomed to labor in the dark. One day, someone new is brought to their cell and chained beside a small girl who calls herself the Speck. The old woman smiles. The new slave says her name is Chilla. Even in shame, she meets the guard's eyes and they look away. Already the bloom whispers in her ears. Chilla places her hands upon its flesh and it strikes a bargain. You owe us. Chilla whispers to the bloom, for the slaves you've eaten, for the Speck's arm that you've destroyed. You owe us something in return. The flesh trembles beneath her hand and opens. Beyond is a chamber full of weapons. You catch a glimpse of Chilla's passing blades and stranger ornaments to the other girls in her cell. So you cut your own arm off because Speck missed her arm? That's crazy. I was listening to you like you had good stories, and now you just tell me you're crazy. I kind of knew that before. Like that's how like kind of like goes every single time. Like, hey, maybe these, like you just go like, hey, these people are crazy, but go in, hey, maybe these people are not so bad. Then like 10 minutes later, these people are crazy. Okay. Chilla picks a glowing hammer for herself, or maybe the bloom does. It fits her hand like it was made for her, and it never leaves her side again. Then we gather together and make our plan to escape. When all of us are ready, Chilla starts hammering on the door to our cell. The guards come running, and we fall upon them, cutting them down, tearing them apart, and Chilla leads us from our prison. And we pour into the market, gathering more and more slaves to our banner. We kill every master we can find. In the market we decide to make our stand. Chilla knows that her enemy, the boss of Segus, The woman who killed her parents and turned her brother against her can't ignore us. We form up into ragged lines, and we hear them. The roar of the soldiers, the tread of heavy boots getting closer, closer. Somehow you can hear them too, along with the terrified murmurs of the slaves as they grip their weapons and prepare to fight for their lives. Keep listening. Noise, confusion! The Spec's eyes are still closed, but she staggers back, raising a hand to defend herself against an invisible attack, as if she thinks she's in the midst of a battle. You can faintly hear the screams and cries, the clank of steel and steel. I stay by Chila's side when the battle is joined. I try to guard her back, but she's struck. First by an arrow, then by a blade. Whenever they cut her flesh, silver scales grow over the wound, and she keeps on fighting. Chila knows why. When she touches the artifact, her birthright, it become a part of her, change her, so that she cannot be killed. She smiles, raises her hammer, crushes the skull of every soldier who stands against her. A shadow passes overhead. It's her traitorous brother, Shade, soaring on wings of flesh and steel, come to kill her at last. Why? He strikes her once, twice, and again. Spec's voice goes quiet. Each time silver scales grow to cover the wound. Instead of getting weaker, Chila grows stronger. She grabs him by the foot and smashes him into the ground, but instead of killing him, she speaks to him in a whisper, and I can hear what she says, but Shade begins to weep. When she lets go of him, he stays on the ground. The battle is won, and the enemy soldiers are running. Chila goes to face the woman who killed her parents. I'll leave you with your life, she tells her, but not your name. Get out of here and never come back. You can almost see the broken woman, a feared warlord only hours before, fleeing alone in the shame from the battle. The Spec pauses and opens her eyes. That's where the story ends. Our enemy fled and the bloom was ours. Sagus Cliff was ours. Chila became the first Mamavira. We ended the trade in slaves, and Chila ruled Sagus and all the lands around for half a century, until the bloom called her to its heart. Nice. What happened to Chila's enemy, the boss of Sagus? She was forgotten. Some of the slaves said they followed her, thinking to kill her despite Chila's promise of safe passage, but before they had the chance, she vanished. She escaped to another world, or was eaten by the bloom. The mischievous smile plays on the old woman's lips. I prefer to think the latter. You keep saying we as if you were there. She blinks. I see the memories as if I was there, or if I was her. The first Spec, but I couldn't have been. It was too long ago. What about the missing arm? Did you just cut it off, or are you really her? The bloom called the Chila to its heart. What does that mean? She died. Its whispers called her. She disappeared into the depths. Maybe it took her to another world. Maybe she still lives down there. One day she'll return for her Spec. I'm sure of that. The whispers wouldn't lie. She will return for one Spec, perhaps not me, but someday. Chila entered the trade in slaves, but now it's returned. In a different form, yes. The old slave-holding families bided their time for generations, marrying themselves into the new leading families of freed slaves. They found ways to justify slavery as a punishment for the wicked. So it is with the wealthy and the powerful. They are more like bloom flesh than they care to admit. Stubborn, enduring, difficult to kill. I have other questions. She nods, her bright eyes still fixed upon yours. I want to know about you. Are you crazy? Her small hand unfolds the slump of her missing arm. A self-conscious gesture. I'm only a speck, a mote of dust, easily missed, nothing important, save for the words I speak. The stories I tell to those who would hear them, but I observe much that passes in the bloom, and I hear still more in its whispers.
How did you lose your arm? The whispers you hear are the voices of the bloom?
So they are!
Her eyes glitter.
A lot of people hear them, but not as clearly as me.
How did you lose your arm?
I didn't, so she did. The first speck,
The insignificant one. Alright, but how did she lose her arm?
eaten by the bloom, it was taken in her sleep. Cauterized at the elbow, just like me.
She stops herself, appearing confused. You were sure she was about to say mine, just like the stories say.
No, mine wasn't eaten. It was nothing. What was I thinking about?
Tell me again how you lost your arm.
I told you, I didn't lose my arm.
If you're confusing me with the real Spec, the one from the stories, you blink several times in succession. Other questions, please. Is this a place of worship?
No, really. People come to be close to the bloom because its mind is strong here. They leave offerings.
She waves her thumb at the nearby slab.
Valuables they've stolen. Trophies of their kills prove that they are hunters, not prey.
What sort of people leave offerings? Are you a leader or a priestess?
Ha!
Me? Making speeches, punishing the sinful? Nah, I'm only a Spec. They let me stay here and I tell them stories, that's all. Perhaps they think of me that way. Part of their illusion, I suppose. What sort of people leave offerings?
Bloom cultists most of all, but also guides, scavengers, merchants who feared to lose their precious cargo, travelers from other worlds, and the Memovira before she lost the favor of the bloom. She'd heap the offering stone with the heads and hands of those she killed. So naughty she was back then, so sure the bloom loved her and things would never change.
The old woman.
Shh. Nothing is forever in the bloom.
What do the bloom cultists believe?
That the bloom is a god, not a very kind or benevolent one, of course.
He smiles.
Some people seek an illusion of safety by redefining the things that they fear.
Who leaves offerings? Oh, never mind that. Does the bloom respond better to thieves and murderers?
She shrugs. Sometimes it pays more attention to them. Whether you want the attention of the bloom is another question.
Predators is another. Perhaps is perhaps a better term for what it wants. Those who prey like it preys. Right. Some other questions? I met some questions about this shrine. Never mind that. Actually, other questions. I met a man outside. He claims to be a former Memovira.
So he was, a man who enjoyed holding lives at his mercy, pronouncing judgment from his throne.
You hear the chittering, whispering voices of the bloom behind the Spec's words, twisting their way into your mind. When you blink your eyes, the image of an imperious-looking man flashes before you. The same man you met outside, but younger, stronger, with a cruel curl to his lip.
The whole bloom was his place, the seed of a kingdom he would build for was his ambition, and the bloom loved him for it. Such power it gave him.
What sort of power?
Every Memovira can open a maw at a touch, but not all can summon maws to their side.
Fewer still can call them outside the fleshy walls of the bloom, as he could, but the bloom turned on him, just as it's turning on the Memovira now.
Just as it always does. So many lives cut short by his hand. So much fear bound up with his name. He'd grown fat with the terror and strife that he sowed in the mind of the bloom. He was a beast made plump for the slaughter.
The bloom eats terror and strife?
It might, or perhaps it devoured his legacy of terror and strife, rolling him around in guts until he was forgotten, until he forgot himself.
He shrugs.
Who knows? The whispers don't say.
He should have seen what was coming and escaped. Sounds like justice to me.
To you it might. To the bloom, it's hunger, nothing more.
It is justice if the bloom also goaded him to it. Well, we'll never know, I suppose. The speck slowly spins herself in a circle.
It's a cycle, round and round. Feast on one Memovira, raise another in his place, let the hunger build. He stops and feast again.
So now the bloom wants to eat this Memovira. That's why she's hiding in her tower.
Too scared to leave her tower, too proud and stubborn to abandon the bloom. She's no different than the ones who preceded her. The bloom will eat her, and her name will be forgotten.
How long has the bloom cycle has been going on?
Since the time of Chilla, at least. So 4 centuries, 5?
He seems momentarily confused.
Before that, who knows? There was no speck to watch and remember.
Certainly the bloom is much older than that. Likely the cycle is just as ancient. If Sheila was the first Memovira, wouldn't she have been part of the bloom's feeding cycle too? The speck turns to you sharply, eyes glittering.
What are you saying?
If the others were eaten, then she was too. Or?
No. She was.
If others were eaten, she was too, and that's what I said.
No, she was taken to its heart as a friend. Her legacy lives in her chronicles, in the statue, in my words. The bloom wouldn't let her be forgotten, and that's proof she's not like the others.
The bloom is absorbing this statue. When it's gone, Chila will be forgotten.
Are you trying to break my fate cast off?
Her mouth quirks into a half a smile.
You won't succeed. All you have is words. Bring me evidence that Chila is gone, and I might believe you, but you won't find any.
Just because I don't have evidence, you see, your logic is flawed. I mean, like, you should provide me evidence that Chila is alive. Not I need to provide evidence that Chila is alive. Well, let's talk about something else. May I sleep here? Crazies?
If you don't mind the stink of the moldering blankets, they won't mind you.
She holds out a tiny hand, but hospital has a price. 45 shins for each guest. I changed my mind, never mind. Damn it, I need to pay for this.
I'm there, in the shadows.
It's just so expensive. Hey, Ragman. Get your face out of mine. You bastard.
Alright.
This polish to the skull is chipped and appears in so many places. Oddly, it has no teeth, suggesting that it swallowed its prey whole. Wow. Uh-oh.
I'm ready.
I need to go here. Rumpled blankets and rags lie on the floor, exuding a sour, sweaty odor, and this is probably where some of the cultists sleep. This is where you sleep? A speck has always been here. Even in my grandmother's day, they all look about the same too. Maybe they are the same person. I don't know if she's human. But she's definitely, I don't know, kind of crazy. It's not truly crazy, but she has fate.
Of course.
So we can't do anything with that. Maybe we have the chance to... What? I can actually check it out? No.
Consider it done.
So, Inkpot and Bloom Cultist. So this is the Bloom Cultist headquarters, apparently. What is this?
On it.
This pool is filled with yellowish water. A wide area around the pool is wet, suggesting that people have been drinking the unpleasant fluid and possibly bathing in it too. I'll look into it. Beneath the surface of the pool's large reservoir of fluid, you can see anything of interest in its depths. I don't wanna... Like, collect some of the fluid? Let's do it. You find a small discarded flask at the edge of the well and fill it with the yellowish fluid. I don't want to drink it, But we have now a flask that does nothing. Bloom juiced. I don't want that. Ink pot. This man is tall and gawkily thin. His wiry hair looks like an explosion of metal strings atop his head. He regards you with bright, feverish eyes that seem too large for their sockets and smiles. Even as he motions you closer, the man is scribbling words on a scrap of paper. He has fastened some sort of harness around his body. It holds the tiny writing tablet and inkwell so he can continue to write as he moves about. Dozens of the scroll-coveted notes are struck to his leathery robes. There's the one who will aid the devourer. Right. No, I don't think so, crazies. I heard rumors of one fitting your description. One who helps those in need. Help us, brother. He intones in a wet and rattly voice. We are extremites of the great devourer, and we beseech your aid to right a great wrong. Okay. Extremites of the great devourer? Bloom cultists. The fancy name doesn't make them any less crazy. Oh, yeah. Damn it. Why am I using their voice for everything? That was what? Matkina said that, damn it. Yeah. You walk in the company of a heretic, I see. The awkward-looking man peers at Matkina, then scribbles furiously on his paper. Well, heresy has its root in fear. Fear that chokes the ears and drowns out the voices of the great devourer. We do not hate the heretic, we pity her. Nice. The white one corrupts him, no matter. The wise will see reason. We are those who venerate the bloom as divine. We seek to become a part of it, if it will have us. He pauses. We are the only ones who can see that a great wrong has been done here. What wrong is that? A terrible torment, he whispers. A visit upon the bloom. Oh God, it's the work of Ioxu, the measurer and meddler, who dwells in that nodule of flesh. He raises his pen toward the house that sits on the other side of the platform, red and stinking and inflamed. Ioxu desires to understand the bloom, to quantify its impulses. This causes pain to our god. His eyes bulge even wider, and it occurs to you that you haven't once seen him blink. The evidence is clear for all to see in the raw and swollen flesh of Ioxu's house. We have warned Ioxu to stop poking and prodding and measuring, but he will not listen. What matters are left to us? Just leave him alone? He left the question hang in the air, unspoken threat. Perhaps you can help him change his mind. Can I just make you guys bugger off? Very well, I'll talk with the Ioxu. His face brightens and he pulls a handful of scribbled papers from a pocket and shoves them into your hands. Scriptures! Scriptures of the great devourer to inspire your thoughts and guide your words. Another tortured smile cuts across his face. From the pen of inkpot, who's me? Alright. What are those papers on your robes? The scriptures of the great devourer. They are ever-changing. In imitation of the bloom, you see? He tears one of the scribbled papers from his robe, crumples it up, and tosses it over the side of the platform. Those words are gone, forgotten, but new ones can be added as we like. He takes a scrolled paper from the little writing desk that is strapped to his body, spits a wad of yellow plagan onto its back, and sticks it to his robe. Now these words are part of the canon. What? Or those papers again? Never mind that. Can you tell me about your beliefs? Oh. We just asked him the question that he was dying to answer. Damn. What? I will not speak of beliefs, he frowns, but I will tell you what is true. First, the bloom is a god, an only true god, and all that takes place within its body is solid and real. That which exists outside the bloom is an illusion, a cruel trick, a falsehood. Second, he intones, that our goal is to become one with the bloom, to transform ourselves into living embodiments of its will, and one day to be called its heart. Right, you want to be called to the bloom heart? Bloom's heart? What does that mean? You want to die? His eyes glisten. When it wants us, the bloom will open a maw at our feet, or reveal a tunnel where one hadn't been before. The passage will close behind us, and we will be never seen again by human eyes. But we will follow its turnings to the heart, and be one with the devourer at last, and pray to no one, never again. Well, that's... well... I guess suppose that's one way to describe getting eaten and never... no one ever seeing you again. What do you think of the Memovira? When her will was one with the blooms, we revered her, but no more. He frowns. She's no Memovira, not anymore, not to us. Another will be found in time. Her time is done. Soon the bloom will take her as well. You think the ninth word is an illusion? I know it. The people of that world try to tell you that life is not pain. They weave illusions and call them laws to protect the weak and the poor and the ugly and the malformed. But look closer, you see that they lie. He spits a gob of yellow plagum off the side of the platform. Only here in the bloom is the horror of life revealed without pretense. Becoming one with the bloom is our only hope of salvation. How do you plan to become one with the bloom? We clothe ourselves in its flesh, feast on its bile and viscera. If we are lucky enough to hear its voice, we empty our minds and let it govern our actions and thoughts. His long misshapen fingers clench and unclench. The devourer will call us to its heart when its will is one with ours. One day I will hear the bloom's voice clearly, not these vague whispers, I must not doubt. Let's talk about something else. Something else? His mouth twitches as if he's irritated to change the subject. Ah, Ben. Is it safe to drink water from that pool? Better than safe. Those fluids are the holy secretions of the great devourer. To drink them is to put your mind in communion with the bloom. He leans closer to you, and your eyes are drawn to the profusion of festering sores in his mouth. You can listen to its voice and know what it means, for a time at least. Are you sure it's safe to drink water from that pool? Of course! Drink the juice of the bloom, and your mind will be open its thoughts and desires. So, it is not healthy, it makes you crazy, but it doesn't kill you right away? Alright, I suppose that's the best thing we can do. The walls of this dwelling are covered in papers with various threats and slurs written on them. Uh-oh. These walls of, the same thing.
Right.
Alright, before we head in, I believe this is a good time to take a break, so hope you guys had fun. Tell me if you did, and see you around, and have a good one.